All right, let's talk adrenal glands. If you've ever had your brain just completely short circuit trying to keep Addison's, Cushing's, and Conn syndromes straight for an exam, you're in exactly the right place. These three are notorious for tripping people up, but not for long, I promise. Let's get right into it.
So yeah, Addison's, Cushing's, Conn's. Can you really spot the difference? I mean, under exam pressure, it's tough, right? They all start to blur together. But don't worry, our whole goal here is to give you a super simple framework so you can nail this every single time.
So let's break this down to its absolute core. It's actually way simpler than you think. Every one of these syndromes comes down to one thing: a hormone imbalance. Your adrenal glands are either making way too much of something or way too little. That's it. That's the big secret. Let's start there. Okay, and to make this even easier, we're going to use a little color coding system. Think of it as a cheat code for your brain. Anytime you see blue, think deficiency, not enough hormone. That's going to be our code for Addison's disease, because you're lacking cortisol and aldosterone. Now, when you see red or yellow, think excess, too much hormone. That's where Cushing's and Conn's live. Simple, right? All right, so we've got the basic concept, too much versus too little. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to start by looking at the lab values, the actual numbers, the hormone and electrolyte levels that are going to give these syndromes away.
Okay, don't let this table intimidate you. It's all about spotting the patterns, the clues. Look at Addison's over on the left. Cortisol and aldosterone, both in the basement. But look at ACTH. It's sky high. That's the pituitary gland, literally screaming at the adrenals to wake up and do their job. Now jump over to Conn's. It's the complete opposite story for renin. Aldosterone is cranked way up, and that tells the kidneys to chill out, so renin just plummets. That low renin is a huge clue. And Cushing's? Well, that's our high cortisol bad boy. See how these patterns are basically mirror images of each other? That's the key.
Lab values are awesome, but let's be real. Your board exams aren't just going to give you a list of numbers. They're going to give you a story, right? A clinical vignette about a patient. So our next job is to translate this hormone chaos into what it actually looks like in a person.
And here it is. This is that hormonal mess playing out in real life. You can see it right there with blood pressure. Addison's, with its lack of hormones, causes hypotension, low blood pressure. Meanwhile, Cushing's and Conn's are swimming in excess hormones, so they cause hypertension. Now, you might notice some overlap, like muscle weakness showing up in all three. And that's exactly why we can't stop here. We've got to zero in on the things that are unique to each one.
Okay, this slide right here, this is pure gold. If you're cramming, screenshot this. These are the unforgettable pairings that will answer 90% of your exam questions. For Addison's, you're looking for that killer combo of hypotension and that weird skin hyperpigmentation. For Cushing's, it's the trifecta: hypertension, that central obesity, and high blood sugar. And for Conn's, it's the clean one: hypertension, sure, but, and this is critical, their glucose and weight are totally normal. Lock these in.
All right, so you've seen the patient in the vignette, you've looked at their labs, and you're thinking, I know what this is. But you can't just stop there, right? You got to prove it. So what's the next step? Let's talk about the specific diagnostic tests you're going to use to confirm your hunch.
Think of diagnosis like being a detective. It's not just one aha moment. It's a step-by-step process. First, you have a suspicion based on the clues. Then you run some initial screening tests. If those look fishy, you move on to the big guns, the confirmatory tests. And finally, you get your imaging to see the scene of the crime. Knowing this pathway is so important for those what's the next best step questions they love to ask. So how do we prove it? For Addison's, we do something called an ACTH stim test. We're basically yelling at the adrenal gland, hey, make some cortisol. A normal gland would jump to it, but in Addison's, the gland is just broken. It can't respond, so cortisol levels stay flat. For Cushing's, we do the exact opposite. We give a little dexamethasone to try and tell the body to stop making cortisol. A normal person would listen, but in Cushing's, the system is just out of control. It ignores the signal, and cortisol stays high. And for Conn's, it's all about that aldosterone to renin ratio. Remember how high aldosterone squashes renin? Well, that gives you a super high ratio, usually over 20. That's your smoking gun.
And last but not least, we pull out the cameras, the imaging. If you see these tiny shriveled up adrenal glands, that's practically shouting Addison's disease. Now, if you spot a little adenoma on the pituitary gland, that's what we call Cushing's disease. That's the specific type where the pituitary is the problem. But if you see an adenoma on the adrenal gland itself, well, that little guy could be pumping out cortisol, causing Cushing syndrome, or it could be pumping out aldosterone, causing Conn's. See how imaging helps us pinpoint the source? It's the final clue.
Okay, deep breath. We've laid all the groundwork. Now it's time to switch gears. Let's do a super fast, high-yield lightning round. These are the memory tricks and pearls you need to burn into your brain for test day. Okay, pop quiz. A question pops up. Patient has hypotension, hyperkalemia, and skin hyperpigmentation. What's the diagnosis? The bells in your head should be ringing, right? Low BP, high K+, dark skin. That unique combo can only be one thing we've talked about, Addison's disease. Bam, you just got the points. See? It's all pattern recognition. So here's your go-to mnemonic for Addison's. Just think, you need to add hormones, AD, Addison's. The body is desperate to add back cortisol and aldosterone. So things that should be high, like blood pressure, are low. But other things, like your potassium and skin pigment, are high. Pretty handy, huh? And what about Cushing's? Easy. Think of a big, soft cushion. Your body has an extra cushion of cortisol. And what does that lead to? A cushion of fat right around the middle, that classic moon face, the whole 9 yards. The name itself gives you the biggest clue.
Finally, Conn's syndrome. My trick for this one, just think Conn's is the aldosterone-only concert. That's the main event. Everything else is just a consequence of way too much aldosterone. And what does that give you? Hypertension with super low potassium and renin. It's the cleanest of the three.
Okay, everybody, this is it. The grand finale. The if you remember nothing else, remember this slide. This is your 30-second cheat sheet before you walk into that exam room. We've got the core problem, the number 1 sign, the key lab, and the key test all lined up for you. Seriously, pause this, take a picture with your brain. This table is going to save you. And I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. A patient comes in with weakness and high blood pressure. 2 things, that's it. It could be Cushing's, but it could also be Conn's. So what's your first move? What's the very first test you're going to order to tell them apart? Think about it. Nailing that answer is the next step on your journey to mastering this stuff. Thanks so much for joining me.